What's up, everybody? I'm Taylor, and I started this channel to share my own personal recovery journey. I'm so grateful for all the subscribers I have and everybody who watches my videos. I never thought it would grow to this extent. I never had the expectation. I just never realized that it could. Never really even thought about it, honestly. I don't post videos every day. I post videos when I feel it in my heart. And that's why I started this channel, from my heart. I want to circle back to a video that I made like a year or so ago. It was me speaking about my psychiatric journey and what I went through with deciding to come off of all my medications at once because it was physically, emotionally, and mentally like killing me. I had tried to reach out to my psychiatrist, telling her how I was feeling, and she just wanted to add more meds and push more meds, and I took matters in my own hand. And I tried for almost 2 years. I threw myself into 12-step programs, into counseling, into researching everything I could, ACA, EA, all these recovery programs, doing this step work, meditation, all this stuff, service work, everything, okay? I learned how to regulate my emotions without medication. I learned how to face my anxiety without medication. The problem is that my nervous system was dysregulated. And real nervous system dysregulation is very painful. So when I finally decided to go to a psychiatrist, it was because my primary care encouraged me to get a new diagnosis. Since I had done so much inner work and stuff, the old diagnoses fell off. They were no longer feasible or valid because I had done so much inner work. But the anxiety and the PTSD, that's just something that will never go away, no matter how much meditation, no matter how much inner work. People who have real physical reactions to, have been like, there's nothing that can take that away. And I learned how to cope with it naturally on my own, although it was painful physically, and it was very hard emotionally for almost 2 years, okay? And I was having health issues on top of that. And I had nerve pain like really bad all throughout my body, in my legs, in my hips, in my lower back, in my spine. I mean, it was brutal, okay? My breathing, I struggled breathing. And the first psychiatrist I finally went to was not very beneficial at all. He prescribed me Cymbalta. I was telling him about all my nerve pain and stuff. And that sat in my cabinet for about 6 months or longer, until I was in so much pain, like for a very long time. It felt like my nerves were on fire in my hips and my back, everywhere. I just got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore naturally. I can't. I can't. It was so hard on a day-to-day basis to separate my attitude from my chronic pain and do all my commitments, everything. It's like, why are you doing this to yourself, Taylor? What are you trying to prove to yourself? Well, one, I wanted to be able for my body to function without medication, is what my intentions were. If I would have known about all the stuff I've learned the past 4 years, right, I would have never jumped to psychiatric medications 10 years ago. And I say that in a non-judgmental way. I accept, I did what I did because that's what we're taught to do. I was on so many medications. They permanently damaged my nervous system on top of what I'm about to share. I've talked about my health in many videos, and You know, I advocated for myself for almost 2 years now, and I never gave up. And I went through a serious phase of like resentment. Last year was a very painful year for me. And I during that year, I learned to talk out loud to myself, and it brought me closer to myself. So about I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, I don't know, it's been time, I decided to surrender and start this Cymbalta, because I had heard other people who had taken it for nerve pain, and they said it was amazing. And I'm like, I know once I start taking this, I'm gonna have to be on it the rest of my life, because that's how psych meds work. I started taking it, and I was taking 30 milligrams, and I lost my passion. I wanted to sleep all the time, and I have a new psychiatrist who is amazing. I've been able to be completely honest with her about everything I've been through, and she supports me like 100%. I've never had this experience with a psychiatrist before, and there are good psychiatrists out there, and I never gave up in trying to find one. And I told her, and she was like, well, we can take it down to 20. Well, just taking 30 down to 20, I could feel the pain again. And I said, you know what? I'm willing to work with this pain I'm having, this chronic pain, because I'd rather feel the pain and have my passion than to not feel the pain. Wait, I'd rather feel my pain and have my passion back, my fire, than to not feel the pain and not have my fire. So there I went again, months and months. You know, I'm also on anxiety medicine as well, and that's helped a lot. Like, me going places in public, it's helped a lot with, like, my body will literally go into flight or fight for no freaking reason. Like, my body will think it's in danger, and my mind's like, dude, why are you tripping right now? We're safe. It was so annoying, so aggravating. And I didn't even ask for that medicine. I was prescribed anxiety medicine from my urologist, and it took me months to finally surrender to take that. And so even on these medications, it's helped me tremendously, but I had to really check my motives for, like, taking them, you know, because of how I was taking them before. I was on like 6 or 7 high milligram psych meds when I decided to come off all my meds 2 years ago. It's over 2 years ago. And I was taking them to numb out my emotional pain. I was using it as an excuse, as a crutch, because I didn't want to feel pain. So that's really my sobriety date. You know, I say I've been sober since 2020, and I have from alcohol, but the thing is that I wasn't really emotionally sober, even though I was being prescribed psych meds legally. You know, that wasn't sober to me. And that's how my recovery works. Being on the meds I'm on, I'm not blocked. I can, you know, I still feel energy. I still feel emotions. I just don't feel them as intense. I still deal with chronic pain every day. It's not as intense as it was, especially the nerve pain, but it's a lot dimmer. It's a lot more manageable for me. For someone else who would, you know, this pain might be unbearable. And I finally got the results of my MRI that I had been advocating for, like I said, almost 2 years. And the results showed that I have a bulging disc in my T7/8 pressing against my spinal cord. And that right there can affect my breathing, my nerves, everything that I've been dealing with. Now, I do have 2 bulging discs in my lower back pressing against my S1 nerve. But it's a lot when, you know, it's my entire spine. It's pressing against my spinal cord. So that explains a lot of things. And that's why, you know, I was brushed off so many times by medical professionals that this is anxiety and this is a mental health problem, and I never gave up. I kept advocating for myself, and I kept fighting for myself. I learned to let the resentments go towards the doctors. I learned to accept my health where it is. And something that I learned to work through the resentment I had, that the medication was actually working. You know, people with anxiety and PTSD like me who really suffer physically from it, it doesn't matter all the meditation in the world. It doesn't matter. I mean, for me, and I'm speaking my experience, you know, if I don't have my medicine when I didn't have it, you know, like if I felt unseen, unheard, misunderstood, or if I felt like rejected, or if I was talking to somebody and I couldn't understand what they were saying, like the doctors, for example, it felt like an atomic bomb exploding through my whole entire body, and it was like my brain would be like duh 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 duh, and I couldn't process anything. That's when a person's body goes into fight or fight. And that's a trauma response. That's as they shall say. So, you know, in my recovery journey, I've learned that if my body in this physical world needs medication to function, to make my life more manageable while I'm here in this physical world, then why would I keep fighting against something that's going to help me physically? And that brought me a sense of peace. It brought me a sense of peace. And the reason I share my experiences, because I think it's really important, because I'm called to do it for some reason. I don't have to know the reason. I don't know the fucking reason, honestly. But I know, since I've been in recovery and I've been off all those meds, that I've really been able to listen to my heart. I was so blocked, and I needed to see what my baseline was. I never said I'm against medications or anything like that. I was just sharing my experience, and this is my experience now. Everyone's gonna have different experiences, but by me having the courage to overcome the fear, by me having the courage to overcome the fear of sharing my experience, strength, and hope, I know deep down that it may help someone else. And that's what true service work is. Service work is not a transaction. People don't pay for service work. Service work is free. That's why it's called service work. And so in my recovery, I have to check my motives of why am I doing something. And I have to have a support system. And before making decisions, I sit in silence and I really think. If I am uncertain about making a decision, guess what? I just don't make the damn decision. I wait. I wait. And I self-reflect. I meditate. I talk to my mentors/sponsors, my recovery circle. I ask people for feedback sometimes. You know, and that's different for me. That's very different for me. So, I'm so grateful for the life that I have created for myself. Keyword, that I have created for myself. You know, a lot of people talk about a higher power, God, and, you know, it's all the same to me. That some power, and I just call it the power of life. I don't know. Who knows, right? I don't. Science definitely doesn't know. There's so much stuff, you know, and the thing is, for me, is I didn't find myself in a book. I found myself in silence, sitting out here, learning to feel my feelings, learning to love myself, learning to show up for myself, learning to give myself the things I didn't get growing up, learning how to emotionally connect to me in a secure, loving, kind way. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of willingness to keep going through the concrete. It's like think about a big concrete wall, like 50 feet. I'm just throwing a number out there. And you have a sledgehammer. I have a sledgehammer. And I have to get through that entire wall. But all I have is a sledgehammer. So I hit a piece and a chunk flies off. I hit another piece, another chunk flies off, you know? That's kind of like how healing is. Yeah, I just thought of that. I might have learned that from somewhere else. I don't know, but I just thought of that. What a great way to put it. So this is me sharing my experience, strength, and hope, and this is where I'm at in my recovery, and I hope that someone can get something out my videos and apply it to their life through action and repetition. May you find the same peace that I have found within myself, within yourself.